Hi, I'm Chris Fowler for SportsCentury. Royalty is not bestowed lightly in sports. We limit our crownings. But Richard Petty, a man who mashed the accelerator and kept making left-hand turns, came to be known as King Richard on merit. First, he carried on a family tradition, and then he passed it on. In the process, he did for stock car racing what Gretzky did for hockey, Palmer for golf, Bird and Magic for basketball.
Just minutes away from the start of the Firecracker 400.
The President of the United States will be here. He will give the command to fire engines just some minutes from right now.
1984, President Reagan got on Air Force One and flew to Daytona Beach for the express purpose of going to an automobile race. He wasn't on his way to see some banana republic dictator and stopping off. He went there to go to the race.
Everything was magic about that. It was like all of the stars were in line, because you had Ronald Reagan, you had Richard Petty, a well-known Republican who was one shy of 200 victories, which no one had ever done.
Everybody was pulling for him, but then a lot of people thought he was never going to win that 200th race.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
President Reagan arrived about halfway through the race. Car 43 is going through the first and second turns at Daytona, and Air Force One is landing right behind it.
There goes Petty, and there goes Yarborough with him. We are building toward a dramatic finish. Petty going for the 200th victory of his illustrious career.
Richard had led part of the race, Cale Yarborough had led part of the race, and then he got down to the final lap.
Got by him going down the back stretch and going into turn 3 and coming off fourth turn. Still felt like I may have a chance to beat him.
Cale Yarborough, on paper, is the favorite to win this race, but you also know Richard Petty.
Back at the Daytona International Speedway, and President Ronald Reagan looking on.
He was fascinated by the whole thing. Here me and Cale Yarborough come down the straightaway at 200 mile an hour, side by side, and smoke's just flying every which way, and it just blew his mind.
Petty came back from the dead, so to speak, and as far as the last lap. Richard Petty's philosophy: when you got that checkered flag in sight, nothing else matters. That's all you see. That's all you know.
Here they are, Sam. They will come across the yellow line.
It's Richard Petty by a foot. Petty wins his 200th career NASCAR victory.
I had Richard set up just where I wanted. I didn't have enough momentum quite to do it.
Richard Petty dominated his sport like no other driver. He had won the Daytona 500 an unprecedented 7 times. He piled up Winston Cups, 7 in all, like firewood. And yet, even though he had been the king for years, victory number 200 at the age of 47 had the feel of a coronation.
I think people were a lot more interested in Richard than they were the president. They just thought this is the way it should be. Whoever is the head official of whatever land Richard's involved with, they need to be with this guy because he's the king.
Did I understand you to say that you bumped each other a few times?
Well, a couple of times. I'll be looking over my shoulder for you along about November. I'm going to be helping you. You can bet on that.
NASCAR always understood the importance of linking with politics. They did it at local levels, state levels, and national levels. And Ronald Reagan, being a guy who drove in the right lane, was their kind of fella. It was just a total package, and people went away from that speedway feeling extremely warm about the moment.
The morning of July 5th, 1984, on the front page of the New York Times was a photograph of the President of the United States and a racing driver. My phone rang off the hook. It's people, advertising agency, PR people, marketing people, corporate executives saying, hey, look, what's this racing business? How do I get a piece of it?
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it. With son of a gun protected from STP.
He was easily promotable. I mean, he was almost like a cardboard cutout because he looked so unique. It's nice to have one sort of semi-unreconstructed, good old boy, redneck, if you will, still going around because it's King Richard. And by the way, he could also drive.
And, of course, everybody knows the famous number 43, the blue paint job and all that. He dominated the sport like nobody else ever has.
Well, it was sort of like the field against Petty. You beat Richard Petty or you didn't win a race.
If he didn't win the race, it was kind of an accident. Kind of like Tiger Woods today. If Tiger doesn't play, it's a nothing event. If Richard wasn't in the race, it was a nothing thing.
He knew how much he could get out of a car and how to hustle it around a track. And I think that's just from a gut feeling he developed over the course of his career.
It's his determination and the true grit to get every ounce of everything he can out of himself as well as his race car.
The thing about Richard is that he was everybody's rival. I mean, he's the Notre Dame of racing.
Richard was not arrogant outwardly, but he was very arrogant inwardly. You know that's with that big smile he has, there's two fangs hanging down. You want to go after that guy, and you want to beat him more than anybody else.
One time in Daytona, I was leading the race, and Richard just drove up beside of me and looked over at me and grinned. He was just letting you know, yes, I do have 3 aces, and the game's over, pal. But I just when he grinned at me, I said, oh.
Behind that grin and behind those sunglasses, there's a lot more going on than most people were able to fathom, and it rarely came out because it wasn't part of how he dealt with the fans.
I think Richard Petty's attitude all through life has been, I want to be everybody's friend, but not a real close friend of anyone.